Author Scott Stabile's parents were murdered when he was 14 years old. 9 years later, his brother died of a heroin overdose. And soon after that, he joined a spiritual community that ended up being a cult, which he realized when they ostracized him when he found the courage to leave. Throughout it all, he has become more devoted to living his life from love and to sharing that love with the world. I recently had the pleasure of sitting down to talk with Scott about his new memoir with a message called Big Love, The Power of Living with a Wide Open Heart. I hope that you'll enjoy the interview. Let's begin by having you tell us about the title of your book, Big Love.
Okay. Well, the title is Big Love. And I love those words. I love the words big love together. And it's become, in my Facebook community, I've grown a pretty large Facebook community, and it's become the sign-off. It's become the thing more often than not that I say to the community when I'm signing off. And the words have been a part of my life in different sets of friends too, where that was like, when we're hanging up the phone, big love, when we're saying goodbye to each other, big love. And we need more love in our world, and the bigger the better,
yes,
as far as I'm concerned.
Yes, me too. In the first chapter of the book, you share that your parents were shot and killed in their Detroit fruit market when you were 14.
Yes.
So how has losing your parents in such a violent way at such a young age impacted your life?
I suspect it's impacted my life in every way imaginable, and I also suspect it's impacted my life in ways I'm not even clear of still, and may never be clear of. I know that I believe, in part because of what happened to my parents, I became an incredibly independent person. I felt like at a young age I had to take care of myself. I had the support. I'm the youngest of 7 kids. So when I moved in with my eldest sister and her husband and their son, so it's not like I was left out in the world completely alone, fending for myself. But when you're without parents, it feels that way. I think that one of the more painful ways it's impacted my life is becoming an orphan at 14 was, there's a part of me that has always felt like an outsider because of it. I think there's a part of me, the gay part, the fact that I'm gay has also contributed to the outsider thing. But being an orphan carries with it a very specific feeling. I don't know how else to say it. So I always felt like, and I was living in suburban Detroit at the time, so it wasn't the norm at all among my friends to be without both parents and then to have lost them in the way that I lost them. So I always felt like I was, manipulating conversations, first of all. I never wanted to talk about parents. If in high school, I was always on guard for any dialogue that would lead back to family so that I could shift it before people started asking me about mine, because it's overwhelming for people. I think it's like being hypersensitive to people's reactions, because I know when people, especially at that age, found out about my parents, they would be completely freaked out and overwhelmed and not know how to be with it. So I feel like I was always extra sensitive to take care of people in that process. And no, it's okay, I'm doing okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that smile, that permagrin, that feeling that everything's okay is a lot of the way I carried myself through life for many years. Even though on the surface there was a lot of pain and a lot of grief, I really blocked that off. I really buried it. And I don't even believe that was ultimately conscious. I think it was a great gift from life, honestly. I think really, I write in the book that the pain buried itself to keep me from burying myself beneath it. And I really believe that's what happened. Because at 14, you're not doing these things consciously. I'm not like, I will lock this pain away so I can move on. But it's really what happened. I'd have a yearly cry about my parents and then not talk about them. So I was thinking about them obviously all the time, but I just went ahead with my life, was a really good student, was a popular kid, and put my energy and focus there. So one of the other I think, critically important ways it's affected me is, and I feel like grief and sadness, the great gift that comes from that is compassion for other people's pain. I think it's, if you've been through it, through whatever it is in your own life, and for many of us, especially at an adult age, there's more than one we've been through. We know what it's like to be in deep sadness. We know what it's like to feel like we can't move on in our lives, or that it's going to be gray for the rest of time. And so when we can settle into that space, we can find empathy and compassion for others who are in that space. And I really do believe, I was a pretty compassionate kid. I think, I was the type of kid that if anyone was getting picked on, it completely freaked me out. And I wanted to take care of people in that way and make sure they felt good. But losing my parents really expanded that, and just really being present with people in their pain, in a different way.
In the book, you say that who we are is who we decide to be, because despite everything we've been through, our power lives in choice. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I think ultimately everything isn't a choice in that things are done to us. I didn't have a choice in losing my parents. Women don't have a choice in being raped or abused. Like, there's a lot that happens to us in our lives that is outside of our choosing. But at any moment, we hold the power to choose what we're going to do next in our lives, how we're going to live our lives, what attitude we're going to take about the experiences we've had in our lives. And I think when we do that, when we understand that and really own it, it's one of the most empowering things we can do, because it's easy to live in the belief that everything's just happening to you and you don't have a say in anything that goes on in your life. But that's pretty disheartening. It's pretty powerless. And whether or not you believe things are destined or not, that's not really what I'm talking about. I'm talking about at any given moment we can say, here I am. I mean, The Power of Now is one of my favorite books in the world, because it's for me so much about the present moment, and that is always about choice. It's always about acknowledging that the only moment we ever really have is right now. And I can take everything I've experienced in my life, every horrible thing that has happened to me, and still in this moment make the choice to move forward with love, with compassion, with forgiveness, and with power.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what do you most hope people will take away from your book, Big Love?
That's a great question. I think a few things. So I don't know if I have a most, but maybe I do have a most. This is what I believe about love, is that there is no more powerful force in the world than love. And that in my experience, what I have learned over and over and over again is that my dedication to love, to being as loving as I can be as often as possible, has changed my life more than anything. And I believe that is the choice that will change anybody's life more than anything. And that's not to suggest in any way that I'm always loving. I'm falling off the love train constantly, but I am committed. Like, I'm committed to getting back on and moving forward with love. So because what I believe about love is it's the base note for all good things in our world. It is the base note for kindness, for compassion, for empathy, for forgiveness, for authenticity, which is really just self-love. Love is where it all starts. It's where all of those things are born from. So when we focus on love, we're naturally focusing on every other good thing in the world. So with Big Love, really what I tried to do with the book was, even though one chapter focuses on forgiveness, one on happiness, one on kindness, the overall message I'm trying to share is this is all love in action. Yes. All of these things, anytime we're returning to that place of open-hearted connection with people, whether that results in kindness or compassion or forgiveness, it's all love. So I guess I do have a most thing.
Yeah.
It's really just to invite people to consider making that choice as often as possible. Like, what does love invite me to do right now? How is love asking me to respond to this person, situation, circumstance? And take it from there.